All right, so let's just jump right in. It is January 29th, 2026,
Yeah.
and we are looking at a game that, I mean, by all conventional logic, should be in an esports museum by now, right?
You'd think so. You'd expect it to be quiet,
Isn't that-
stable.
Exactly. But instead, the StarCraft 2 scene is, it is hotter and messier than it's been in years,
It really is. The community's on fire, and we're seeing these huge, huge debates about the game's integrity.
which is why today we are doing a deep dive into the state of the game after this earthquake of a patch 5.0.15.
And the vibes are not great.
The vibes are heavy. So we've got a whole stack of sources here. We've got the raw numbers from Wikipedia's 2025 stats, the official PTR patch notes. We're even pulling in some historical data from the ASL, the Starcraft 1 League, to get some context.
And the mission here is to answer what seems like a simple question. Is the game actually balanced?
Because the numbers say one thing.
And the players,
Yeah.
the actual people playing the game, are saying something completely different. It's this total disconnect.
It's statistical reality versus community vibes. So let's start with the creator itself. Patch 5.0.15. This is on the public test ROM right now.
And the reaction has been, well, visceral, especially from Protoss players.
Oh, absolutely. They feel like they have a huge target on their backs. And the big one, the one everyone is talking about, is this thing the community has dubbed the Tickle Storm.
The Tickle Storm.
It's a funny name, but for context, psionic storm. For 15 years, this has been the go-to spell for Protoss.
It's their big area of effect damage dealer. It's meant to just melt units like Terran Marines or Zerg Hydralisks.
It's the get off my lawn button. But I'm looking at the patch notes, and you have to walk me through this because on paper, the duration of the storm is way up, from 2.86 seconds to almost 9 seconds.
Yeah, 8.58.
That sounds like a massive buff to me. Why is everyone so angry about a longer storm?
It does sound good, right? But it's a trap, because while the duration is longer, they halved the damage per tick.
Halved it.
Yep. From 10 damage down to 5. And this isn't just a small tweak. It fundamentally changes what the spell is for.
How so?
It used to be a killing tool. It was burst damage. You drop a storm on some Marines and they would just evaporate.
Right.
Now, by stretching that same total damage out over 9 seconds, you've turned it from a killing tool into a zoning tool.
So it's not you are dead anymore. It's more like you probably shouldn't stand here.
Exactly. And here's the problem that Protoss players are seeing. In a high-level game, 9 seconds is an eternity. And if the Terran player has medevacs, the flying healing ship,
Oh, I see where this is going, the healing.
the medevacs can actually heal through the storm now. We ran the math. A few medevacs can pretty much negate all of that slow-ticking damage in real time.
So the Marines can just stand in it.
They can stand in the Tickle Storm, get healed, and just keep shooting the Protoss army. That's why it's no longer lethal. It's just annoying.
And that changes everything. Protoss units are expensive. They rely on that burst damage to stay alive. But that's not the only thing they nerfed. Right. Let's talk about the mothership.
The big capital ship, yeah.
Its health got cut from 250 to 300. But the change that really stood out to me was for the Observer, their little invisible scout. It says they now reveal themselves in surveillance mode.
That one is actually a huge deal, but maybe more for the lower-level players.
Why them specifically? Don't pros use observers?
They do, but pros are always actively managing their units. For, 90% of the player base, you park an observer somewhere, put it in that high vision mode, and you just forget about it.
It's a set it and forget it safety net.
Exactly. Passive information. Now, if you want that extra vision, you are literally painting a target on your own scout.
Yeah.
You have to actively manage it or you lose it. It removes that safety net.
It really feels like they're stripping away all the safety features of the race. We saw a comment on Reddit that said Protoss has lost their door. They just feel exposed. And then there's the energy overcharge nerf.
Dropping it from 100 to 50 energy. Yeah, that one was targeting a very specific strategy where Protoss could get free energy for their spellcasters from their main base.
So they didn't have to build an army to defend early on.
Right. They could invest in their economy and just rely on these magic battery shields. This nerf forces them to play a more honest game and actually build units.
Which I guess they famously hate doing. But okay, let's pivot. Because there are two other races here.
Yeah.
And there's one line in the Terran patch notes that might be even bigger than the Tickle Storm.
Oh, I know what you're talking about.
Siege tanks in siege mode can no longer be abducted by Vipers.
This is massive for the Terran versus Zerg matchup. Absolutely massive. The Viper's Abduct spell is basically a giant lasso.
The Yoink.
The Yoink, yeah. You pull an expensive, powerful siege tank right into the middle of your Zergling swarm and it just dies. It was Zerg's main answer to a dug-in Terran.
And now that's just gone.
Completely gone. If a tank is sieged, you can't move it.
Hmm.
That makes a Terran defensive line exponentially harder to break. You can't dismantle it piece by piece anymore. You have to charge straight into it.
Which sounds suicidal.
It usually is.
Yeah.
But you can see Blizzard's thinking. If you look at the other Zerg changes, they lowered the cost of the Spire and they buffed Microbial Shroud.
That's the spell that reduces damage, right?
Yeah, it now reduces range damage by 50%. So Blizzard is basically telling Zerg players, stop yoinking tanks. We want you to use air units and this Shroud and just take a straight-up fight.
They want a brawl, not a surgical strike.
That's the idea. But Zerg players are very, very skeptical that it's actually going to work.
And that skepticism, that leads us right into our next segment. Because if you ignore all the complaining and just look at the tournament results from 2025, you'd think the game was in a perfect golden age.
This is the data paradox. It's fascinating.
It really is. I have the stats here from Wikipedia from all the major 2025 tournaments. Get this. Terran win rate, 50.23%.
Yeah.
Zerg, 49.73%.
Go on.
50.00%.
Exactly.
I know. It's unbelievable.
You couldn't fake those numbers if you tried. If I'm a game developer, I am popping champagne. The job is done.
It looks perfect on the surface, but data without context is, it's just noise, and you have to peel back the layers.
And this is where it gets really interesting. This is what you call the Serral effect.
Right. Juna, Serral Sotala, the Finnish phenom, he is so good at Zerg that he actually warps the global statistics by himself.
By himself.
Yeah. In our sources, they broke down the data and removed the results from the EWC EU qualifiers, which was a tournament that he and another top Zerg, Raynor, just dominated.
Okay, so what happens when you just delete those two guys from the spreadsheet?
Zerg's global win rate immediately drops by about 1.5%.
Whoa, that's a huge swing. It's massive. It means that for basically every other pro player in the world, Zerg is statistically underpowered. But because one or two guys are playing on another level, the average looks perfectly fine.
That's the balancing nightmare, right?
Yeah.
Do you balance for the top 10 players or for the 10,000 people below them?
Exactly. If you buff Zerg to help the average pro, a player like Serral might literally become unbeatable. But if you don't, everyone else just kind of suffers.
And speaking of suffering, let's look at the money. Because prize money tells a different story.
This is what we call the representation gap.
Right. So Serral, the top Zerg, earned almost $220,000 in 2025. The top Protoss Classic earned about $144,000.
And in the really big S-tier tournaments, it's almost always a Zerg or a Terran player holding the trophy at the end.
And this is the crazy part. If you look at the Grandmaster ladder, the top of the top for regular players, Protoss makes up 41% of the population.
Yeah, it's wild.
How does that even work? Nearly half the best ladder players are Protoss, but they can't win the big ones.
It comes down to the difference between a skill floor and a skill ceiling. The general feeling is that Protoss is more, let's say, beginner-friendly.
The A-move death ball.
The A-move death ball, exactly. You can climb the ladder really efficiently with it because it's effective against players who aren't perfectly coordinated. But at the absolute highest level of pro play, that style hits a wall.
Because the opponent stops making those mistakes.
Right. And the skill ceiling for a Terran player microing their units or a Zerg player managing the whole map, it's just higher. The mechanics of those races allow players like Clem and Serral to express more skill.
So that Reddit thread we saw was basically right. Low-level players hate playing against Protoss, but the top pros love it.
That's the sentiment. And it creates this design deadlock. If you balance for the top 16 players, the game feels awful for everyone else on the ladder.
Which brings us to the psychology of it all.
Yeah.
Because each race really does have a distinct identity.
And a distinct set of complaints.
For sure. So Terran, they're the resourceful humans. But right now, the meta is this ghost mech style.
Which is described as basically unbeatable in the late game. It's a very slow, methodical, turtle style of play.
And it is agonizing to play against. You're just throwing your army against a wall of tanks and turrets for half an hour.
And then you have Zerg, the swarm. But the feeling right now is that they're nerfed, that they have to rely completely on a player being way better than their opponent.
Right. They feel like they have no gimmicks. They have to work twice as hard to win.
And then there's Protoss. The source material is pretty direct here.
Calling them the cheesiest race.
Yep. Cheese being those all-in, high-risk strategies designed to win the game in 5 minutes. Cannon rushes, proxy gateways.
We saw a thread titled, I hate macro games. And the top comment was just, play Protoss. Why is that the reputation?
Well, it connects back to what we were just talking about. If your standard late-game army can't really compete at the highest level because of that skill ceiling issue,
You're forced to do something weird early on.
you're forced to improvise, you have to try and end the game early, because if you let it go long, you know you're at a disadvantage against the pure mechanics of the other races.
It's a vicious cycle. They cheese because they feel weak, which makes everyone hate them, which leads to nerfs.
And speaking of psychology, I want to bring in this amazing stat from the Starcraft 1 data. The belief that winning the first game of a series is the most important thing.
Oh yeah, the momentum theory. You win game one, you crush their mental, you win the whole match.
So we fact-checked it. In a best-of-5 series, the player who wins game 1 wins the whole series 73.1% of the time.
See, it's true. That's a huge advantage.
Well, hold on. The player who wins game 3 wins the series 73.6% of the time.
Oh, so it's not about momentum at all.
It seems to just be. If you win games, you're more likely to win the series. The pivotal game is actually game 3, not game 1.
That's actually kind of comforting. Losing game one doesn't mean you're doomed.
Right. And you know what else matters? The map.
Yes. Let's talk about maps, because the battlefield itself changes so much.
It really does. Looking at the old ASL data, they actually found what they called the most balanced map in history, a map called Sylphid.
Sylphid.
It had a balance score of 94.4, just nearly perfect win rates across every matchup. And then you had maps like Dark Origin, which were super Zerg favored.
What makes a map Zerg favored? Lots of open space.
Open spaces, yeah, and bases that are hard to defend, so the Terran can't easily build a wall.
Makes sense. But here's the wildest map stat I saw. It was about cross spawns, when you start in opposite corners of the map. The data says that's terrible for Terran against Protoss.
It is.
But I would think the extra distance helps Terran, gives them more time to build their defenses.
You'd think so, but Terran relies on hitting specific timing attacks before the Protoss army gets too strong. The huge distance creates something called reinforcement lag.
Reinforcement lag. Break that down.
It just means it takes a very long time for new units to walk across the map and join the fight.
Ah, so your army at the front line isn't growing as fast as it should.
Exactly. Your reinforcements are trickling in one by one instead of arriving as a big wave. And that extra 30 or 40 seconds of travel time.
That's enough time for the Protoss to get their storms ready, or biggest their Tickle storms.
Exactly. It just gives Protoss all the time in the world to prepare.
So let's bring this all together. We have a patch that nerfs the Protoss late game, bucks Terran defense, and changes how Zerg is supposed to play. We have stats that say the game is perfectly balanced.
And a player base that feels like it's completely broken. It's a tale of two realities.
The data reality, where everything is 50-50.
And the player reality, where Protoss dominates the latter but gets nerfed for pro play, where Zerg feels unplayable unless you're a literal god.
And Terran just builds a wall of tanks and waits for you to die of boredom.
And it raises this, I think, really provocative thought. We're obsessed with the idea of balance, but the data shows that without these massive outliers, without a Flash in Brood War or a Serral in Starcraft 2, the whole concept of balance just falls apart.
So the question isn't, is the game balanced? It's who is balancing it for us.
Right. If the game is only balanced because of one single player's impossible skill, is the game actually balanced? Or is that player just breaking the system so hard that he skews the math for the entire world?
That's a terrifying thought. What happens if Serral retires tomorrow?
Does Zerg's win rate plummet to 45%? Does Blizzard have to buff them and in doing so break the game for everyone else? It's the Serral paradox.
Wow. Okay, on that existential bombshell.
Yeah.
My advice. Just play random. You can't get mad about balance if you don't even know what race you are.
And you can cheese with everyone.
Exactly. Embrace the cheese. Watch out for those tickle storms, everyone. We'll catch you on the next deep dive.